Hey guys, JV here sharing 5 quality of life mods that make life easier in the Helios cluster. Keep in mind these are not cheats, nothing of that nature, nothing that gives you an advantage, but a collection of fixes that gets rid of annoying and tedious design decisions from the game. As you're watching, if you're interested in any of the PC mods for your own game that are featured in this video, I've linked every single one in the description below. As always, if you like what I do here and want to see more, be sure to subscribe. The first mod we're looking at is called Shorter Landing and Departure Cinematics by Forkinator, and the description for this one is, I always thought the cinematic movies that play whenever you land on a planet, and especially when you go back to the Tempest, were way too long. This mod shortens all landing and departure cinematics by roughly 90% for the following hubs and worlds: the Nexus, including Tram Cinematics, Aya, Eos, Havarl, Vold, Coderre, H047C, Eladin, and Meridian, so essentially any place that you can actually land on. And what does 90% mean? Well, it cuts these scenes down from 18 to 30 seconds every single time you have to use the Tempest in some form or fashion, down to 1 to 6 seconds. It varies on the planet and the destination. Like all the mods featured in this video, this one is self-explanatory. It does exactly what it describes that it does. And I believe before these scenes were not skippable because they were used as something to look at while the world's loaded in. But it's pretty clear that this gets done a lot quicker than these full-length scenes. It only takes a few seconds, whereas these scenes dragged on for a long time. So this is a minor annoyance, something that becomes a problem if you're doing a lot of side missions, going from one planet to another, getting rid of those minor task missions that are filling up your quest log. If you find yourself going from planet to planet, this gets exceedingly irritating, and a lot of the time you're just wondering, why does it take this long in the first place? So this is a perfect quality of life fix. Side note, in my own testing, this does not work if there's a story cutscene following you entering that planet. I guess the game is also getting ready to show you that cinematic, and there's some dialogue involved, like returning to Eos for the first time after the radiation clears. You've got that whole cutscene where Sam kind of shows you where you can go around the world, what you can explore, and what you can do. So just keep in mind, if there's anything story related that needs to happen, that you need to have some kind of conversation with someone after landing, you're going to be forced to wait, which kind of sucks, but it makes sense in the grand scheme of things. Another thing I was pleasantly surprised by is that this works when you're extracting from the Nomad too. So literally from the time you decide, okay, I want to go back to the Tempest, and you're in the Nomad exploring some world, you can hit that button and you'll be back on the ship in 5 to 10 seconds. It's much quicker than it used to be. Next, we're looking at Faster Coderre Doors by Nightwolf 2503, and the description for this one is, reduces the ridiculously long time it takes to interact with some of the doors in Coderre Port. There may be a slight delay until the game is done loading sometimes, especially when entering the market area, but most of the time they should open immediately. Currently affected are the 4 doors leading to and from the market area and the door to the cell in the main building on Coderre. It's funny because the description for this one almost reads like a patch notes fix, because that's probably what this should be. In my playthroughs, I always found it extremely annoying that the doors on Coderre were much slower than every single other door that you encounter in the entire game. You don't realize how many doors you've opened and interacted with throughout the game and how used to the timing you are until you get to Coderre. It's like introducing a mechanic or a design decision, teaching the player how to use it throughout the entire game, and then slapping the player in the face by changing it. And in this instance, for no apparent reason, it's not some decision that made sense. The doors are just slower for no reason, and we know that because loading is just as quick as the other worlds. It's not like Coderre takes 3 times longer to load like the doors seem to imply. I also remember during my playthroughs that the doors on Coderre were one of the reasons I didn't want to visit Coderre Port. I didn't want to have to deal with that. Again, minor annoyances that kind of build up and become more annoying. So this is another perfect quality of life change. Now we're looking at Nomad Top Speed Increase, again by Forkinator, and the description for this one is simple: increases the maximum speed of the Nomad from 160 kilometers per hour to 200 kilometers per hour. Just to clarify, the gameplay, all of the gameplay you're seeing that involves a Nomad in this video is with the stock Nomad. There are no upgrades applied. And just to clarify, this increases the cap of the speed. It doesn't mean you're going to be zooming around at 200 kilometers per hour. It's nothing that, is ridiculous. It doesn't break the immersion or or feel like cheating. It's just another quality of life change here. In my experience, you'll need upgrades, or you'll need to be going downhill to peak above the 160 mark. So I was going downhill in Coderre or on Eladin or on Vold, for example. Those are the only times where I would actually get above 160. But again, if you have certain upgrades that increase the speed or agility mode or anything like that, you'll definitely eclipse that speed no problem. This one is especially useful when you're doing random tasks on a place like Eladin, for example, when you're driving from point to point around the map, and that becomes kind of tedious because you're searching for certain things on different, crates, whatever it may be. There's a lot of random tasks that come to mind where you're just mindlessly driving around. Increasing what seems like an arbitrary cap from 160 to 200 is really helpful here, and again, it doesn't feel ridiculous. It feels like it fits, feels like you're traveling at a speed which is appropriate for the size of the world and for what you're trying to do. It also takes full advantage of those upgrades that you spent valuable resources on, because if you upgrade your Nomad all the way, I'm sure some of you know, you're still capped out at that 160. So if that cap is removed with this mod, then you're taking full advantage of those upgrades. Next is Shut Up Sam by WadaFuzz, and this is a perfect quality of life mod here. The description is: remove Sam comments about temperature, radiation, mining, and life support being restored. This keeps his comments about life support being low or failing because those can be useful. It also removes the team's comments about temperature and the worm on Eladin. Also, now Ryder will actually focus on trying to kill people while taking the flop house on Eladin rather than whine about the heat. And then finally, this removes Sam's comments about unspent AVP. This is something I've addressed so many times on my channel. Sam talks far too much. A lot of the time his comments are unnecessary and they become annoying after 50 to 100 plus hours of playtime. The biggest impact of this mod is felt during exploration because he has so many instances in where he has to tell you something for some reason. So removing comments about the temperature changing, whether you're fine to whether you need to watch out for the temperature, or the radiation is at a certain level, whether there's a mining node nearby, and whether you need to worry about your life support. These are the core situations in which it's totally excessive, and it always was from launch. The additional small changes, like squad mates commenting on the temperature on Eladin and the worm, like, oh my god, watch out for the worm. Literally, if you were in a certain part of Eladin, that was a constant thing. And so the flophouse fix as well just makes sense. And finally, the AVP change. Thank goodness. Every time you would enter the research room, Sam would have to tell you, even if you're just passing through, not worried about the research, that you have AVP points to spend, right? To spend on upgrades, cryopods, whatever. And I checked this, even with 3 cryopod points available, Sam was not telling me that I had some available. I've always felt that this is something BioWare should have addressed in a patch, at least before now. It's been 4 months, definitely not something that's at the top of their priority list in terms of patches and fixes, but something that should have been addressed by now. This is a mod that is absolutely necessary. The final QOL mod for this video is Dialogue Annoyances Removal, once again by WadaFuzz. This one does several things. So the description here reads that the mod removes those useless banter interrupting comments the team makes when approaching enemy camps and structures. But it does keep the comments linked to various tasks, so you're not missing anything important. Other things it does are remove the comments when approaching Techics on Vold. It lowers the volume for a couple scientists that you save on Havarl that end up staying in that main building. They're way too loud, so this fixes that. It lowers the volume on those strange HNS news broadcasts on the Nexus that would update, depending on what you're doing. Sometimes they were way too loud. It silences a few PB lines that are annoying, like so much violence and gravity goes away in 3. Those battle lines are removed. And then finally, it removes Suvi's comments during space exploration. The huge thing this mod does is prevent disruption of banter. And it's unfortunate because the last 2 BioWare games, Andromeda and Inquisition, have had issues with disrupting party banter for whatever reason. Shortly after launch, I remember BioWare fixing another isolated issue preventing party banter from happening sometimes. And so, as with Inquisition, Andromeda has some superb party banter, really fantastic stuff that makes you love these characters. But the issue is, a lot of the time, it gets interrupted by excessive and unnecessary dialogue, such as driving near an area and Ryder saying, oh, that looks like Ket Tech. Something you don't want to hear when you're learning more about these characters. After driving around on Vold and Eldon, I heard so much more dialogue than I was used to because of this fix, because those interruptions were not happening. Another one of those specific fixes, the one for Suvi, is particularly nice if you're trying to scan every planet, you're trying to go through and just get 100%, because there's a little dialogue line attached to most of them, and sometimes that can get irritating, so it removes that as well. Fortunately, these specific issues are separate downloads, so you can mix and match what you do and don't want in terms of dialogue annoyances. Just some closing thoughts on these quality of life mods. I truly wish I had all these mods on my second playthrough, which, as you guys know, as I shared on the channel, I did that on PC instead of Xbox One. It was much better because of the way I played it, but it would have been even that much better had I had these changes. So quality of life changes aren't supposed to be super noticeable. The best thing about these mods is that they get rid of the small things that shouldn't pull you out of the immersion in the first place. They shouldn't distract you and annoy you. The best thing you can do with these mods is install them and then forget you even did it in the first place, because you're not even thinking about that. You're focusing on the game. So if I do return for another playthrough on Andromeda, I will use these mods 100%. That's it for me, so turning it over to you guys. Which mods would you use in this video? Which ones do you find the most helpful, most friendly, most quality of life improving that we looked at today? Personally, the SAM and the dialogue changes and also the shorter cinematics is a huge improvement for me, really something you can feel the most impact of in a playthrough. But let me know what you're thinking in the comment section below. If you stayed till the end and enjoyed the video, click the like button and subscribe for more content. Check out my latest videos by clicking the links on screen. Follow me on Twitter and Facebook so you don't miss another video. Sign up with Juniper to receive exclusive discounts on shirts, hoodies, and more at the JV merch store. Click the link for more details. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.